For our last program within session 4, we're going to be looking at how we can actually encapsulate if statements within other if statements and how that affects the execution of the code. So this program will be taking in numbers from the user and then outputting the smallest of them all, right? So starting from the top, we have our preprocessor. So we'll be using the IOStream module because we're dealing with input and output. Our namespace declaration to again let the compiler know what unique set of keywords we're going to be using to define our program. And then we go into our main function, which is going to run all of our code. Okay. So thinking about what sort of data we're going to interact with and how we can store that, we go on to declare our set of variables here. So they're all going to be integer A, B, C, and then min to store the smallest of the values. Then we instruct the user so we can print out a message using the cout object. And that basically starts a stream of data to be displayed onto the console. We use the insertion operator to add data to that stream, and then we add the string that reads enter the value of A. So that's a fancy way of saying we're just outputting a message out to the screen to communicate with the user. We then use the cin object to read that data, and then the extraction operator to input it or save it in the A variable. We repeat that process with the second number and then with the third number. And then finally, we get to our decision making. So we have really three main if statements, first one, second one, and the third. Let's break down the first one so that you can understand a bit of what's going on. And I'm going to just add some brackets here just to, again, make it easier for you to visualize the body of that if statement. And hopefully that helps clear out any sort of confusion. Now, bear in mind the brackets will not change the behavior of that code. You still get the same result. But like I said, hope that it helps. So we've got an if statement within an if statement, and I'll show you how that can work. So this first condition will either get evaluated to true or false, that we know. And then just like any other if statements, if that is true, the body of the if statement will be executed. Now, that doesn't mean that min will be set to A straight away, but that does mean that the second if statement will get executed. And as part of that, this condition evaluated. So if this is true, the next thing the compiler will look at doing is seeing if this second condition is true. So is A less than C? If that's the case, then and only then will min be set to the value of A, okay? So for min to be set to the value of A, it has to be lower than B, and it has to be lower than C, okay? So let me just get rid of those brackets there. And that is essentially what is happening, okay? So that it will run exactly the same with or without the brackets, but it's just for simplicity. As you can see here, we have less lines of code. The same thing happens with this if statement here. So if B is less than A, and then if B is less than C, only then will min equal B. And then it's the same thing for C. And finally, we just output the smaller number using the string here being sent to the cout object, and then we print out the min value, the final min value. So we can actually run that and see if that works. Let's input 599, see, and then we get 5. Okay, so that's working fine. Another way we can rewrite this, and it might be a bit simpler to understand, it might be suitable for a lot of situations, so it's good to be aware of, is you can do something like this. You can do A if A is less than B and A is less than C, and min equals A, right? And we can do if second one, if B is less than A and B is less than C, equals B. If C is less than A and C is less than B, min is equal to C. And as you can see, that's a bit more clear, and you can write that in just 3 lines of code. So that's another way to do it, which depending on the situation might might be better for the intended program. So you really have to think of what's the most concise way to write the code, the most effective way. And that's really going to change depending on the requirements and depending on what you're doing. So that's our last program of session 4, and I'll see you in session 5.